Okay, shall we start this? Right, bear with my accent for about less than an hour. Let's see, so, Roaming 101 Introduction. Welcome to the class, thanks for showing up, showing a lot of interest in the class to begin with. This course is designed primarily for players who would like to learn the most known PvP style in small gangs. Small gangs are about can start pretty much with 2 people and all the way up to 10-15 people tops. Anything above is considered pretty much an operation of some kind, generally is. And we're going to talk about small gang roaming, designed to gank ratters, miners, designed to, cause care, bear, tears, and panic, face off other roaming gangs on the way, and just, fight against uneven odds generally. Also, it can be a good source of income depending on your area of operation. For example, if you're operating somewhere in 0-0, say village, you'd be able to gank a lot of tengus and, make a lot of money by getting those Guristas invulnerability fields. So, in the next hour or less, we're gonna cover what does it mean to be, in a sort of small roaming gang. How does it stack up against your gang size, and what ship types to take? How much alcohol to introduce into your system before you set out on such journey? Roaming in Lowsec, and then we're gonna cover roaming 0-0. Let's see, who's recording this? Anyone? Okay, cool. So gang size versus ship type. What does it mean? It pretty much refers to what you would like your gang to be like. It's not a strict rule, so you can pretty much take anything, which is great because a lot of people don't train certain ships, some people don't like certain ships, etc. Roaming gang is all about what you guys want. You can get a bunch of friends, you can get a bunch of corp mates, you can get some alliance mate that when play with all the time. You can get together, get into some ships, and just shoot off in whatever direction. So, gang size. So gang size refers here is how many people you normally bring and what ship types you should take with that size. For example, if you're going in, for example, 3-man group, you really want to have a lot of points to go around with groups so you can actually tackle 3 targets at least. Otherwise, you're gonna have one tackler and he's gonna die, and your other 2 guys are left with nothing, basically. So you definitely want to see who does what in that small roaming gang. If you want to have a lot of DPS, that's fair enough, but you still shouldn't forget about tackle and electronic warfare. And basically, most fleets nowadays, they have, battle cruisers, which is generally a good size ship, good tank, has a point, and has enough DPS to take down very tanky targets like Tengus. We've got Battleship Roaming. It can be a close battleship, because you normally try and stay out of enemy sight. You can take on large numbers. For example, me and my friends would be roaming in, say, 3-4 battleships, one being Scorpion, and we would have 1 to maybe 3 top tacklers in Intis and 1 deck. And this will generally, Dicta would separate generally a large force, say 30-man gang that come after us. It would separate from our battleships, and the battleships will just long range snipe them and pick them one by one off, which generally makes for good turkey shoot. Right, there's tech 2 hacks, and just your general small ships, rifters, etc. It's good for roaming, good fun. It's just whatever fancies you, wherever you like to go. There's no strict guidelines, which is great. And this is what makes this roaming the best PvP type in the game. That's what most PvP players love about this game, is small gang PvP in roaming. So, who determines the ship types really is up to you. There's no kind of fleet commander. If you got a fleet commander, that's good. If you don't, no matter, you guys can just... The main point is just your initial sort of planning on where you're going and what ships you would like to take. And never ever think of it as some kind of operation where you have to, kill them all, not die. Be prepared that you're all gonna die, and that will help you through it. You're not gonna have, the whole after battle going, oh crap, we all died, that was terrible. If seeing our target was crap, we didn't focus fire, we didn't kill that and this and that. Just go prepared that you're all gonna die, you're gonna have fun along the way, you're gonna kill some stuff, you're gonna die, it's all good fun. That brings me next to the next point of alcohol and more. Actually, I'm not sure why I made this topic, but a lot of alcohol generally helps to relax and get out of the whole stigma of dying. You can up on the way, make some games up. I mean, I've been flying for quite a while, and we've been making up random games of drinking games. So we go along and we bet on something, and then we drink. So makes up a very good time. I know some alliances that can't actually go a day without drinking. Be careful though not to become an alcoholic. It's contagious. And yeah, so basically you drink up and go roaming and have a lot of fun while you do that. Which brings me, of course, to roaming in Lowsec. Roaming in Lowsec, by nature, is where you take your battleships and tanky ships with you. Primarily because you would have to face sentry gunfire if you would like to kill someone on the gate or engage someone on the gate. Primarily because you will also meet up pirates who also use tanky ships, battleships with slave sets. This is why you would want that. You would also want to have maybe a logistics ship, one or two as well, to go with it, but generally it's battleships who would be remote raping each other. So it's remote raping gangs of several battleships that are going around terrorizing Lowsec. You can go in battle cruisers as well, that's another option. Battle cruisers generally cheaper as well, especially in today's economy where they cost now through the roof. And you can just go around Lowsec. There's certain pipes around Lowsec, for example the Amamaki pipes, and there's a lot of Hemata to Jita pipes as well that you can roam through. It's also about knowing your area and what kind of PvP you expect out of Lowsec, because Lowsec by nature is very how should I put it? It's very the people who live in Lowsec generally very alert. They're very sort of scared of anything, any blob, anything, and to get them to PvP it takes a lot of effort. And I've been doing a lot of PvP in Lowsec as well, where I would have to, even with pirates, have to bait them for hours with different ships, with neutral even ships, just so they would come out of their shell or station and actually come to fight. It's been a big pain in the ass, to put it lightly. So roaming in Lowsec can be hard, can yield nothing at times, and generally speaking it's battle cruisers, battleships, and off you go. Right, but the main roaming happens always in 0-0, where you can take any size gangs and which can take on pretty much anything. I mean, You guys been to 00 roaming? I know some of them that died to my defense fleets. You'd come around in your cruiser style, normally ships, and try to fight off whatever bait we throw in, which generally is quite a lot of fun for us because we just kind of destroy you all, but at the same time, it's about how you guys what kind of teamwork you guys have when you go into 00 roaming, because every ship matters and every pilot's action matters a lot. For example, you would have some blackbirds and they would be primaried first. This is why it's very important to keep them at range from the enemy and make sure they are jamming correct targets and they coordinate with each other to spread the jammers along those targets so you get the maximum coverage possible while your DPS is taking care of other targets. And it's very important in roaming as well, is when you're roaming with your friends, is getting to know your corp mates, alliance mates that you fly with, get to know what they're used to, how well they perform in their ships, and that will help you a lot when you enter a fight. You can expect them to make decisions, relevant to your success, rather than barking orders and telling them what to do all the time, like generally happens in large fleets. And roaming gangs is all about PvP in a nutshell, where you literally just have to know your team and coordinate with them well and get it all done. I mean, when I was roaming with one of my friends, I was in a Scorpion. He had a battlecruiser Hurricane, and we were roaming in Benel. And we find a gang of battleships. It was just Armageddon, Ishtar, which was a hack, and a Scorpion, and we killed them all. Basically what happened was the Scorpion, for whatever reason, jumped out when we engaged Armageddon and Ishtar. Ishtar was on me and he got me down to about 30% structure by the time he died, and Armageddon was killed as well, and they were jammed, but the drones eating Scorpion obviously couldn't get away from that. But basically Scorpion jumped back in time when Ishtar died, and then he was just perma-jammed by me, and we killed them all. And that's kind of coordination that we had, where I was being the ground control. I was jamming them down while the Hurricane was dealing the damage and holding them in. Other roaming gangs include obviously your 10-15 Rifter gang, which would just generally be one of those fun gangs where you just sort of go out there to kill something tasty. For example, I mean, there's been a lot of cases where a vagabond would see a Rifter and go for it, and then another 10 show up and just chew up the poor vagabond. So there's a lot of those kind of situations where you just go out there to sort of kill pricey targets just for fun, just to grieve people in that they got killed by a bunch of Rifters. Right. Ooh. I think I talk really fast because it's only been 15 minutes. What's more to say? I guess what's more to say about roaming is it's very, very flexible. It's the best way to PvP in 00 when you start PvPing in 00. I mean, when I first moved to 00 in 2007, actually beginning of 2008, I was roaming with my corp mates, just to sort of get used to the 00, get used to PvPing in a small gang and just having fun, really. I mean, so many times we would go out and catch some ratter, for example, in a belt and in a crow, and then we'd just sit there for I don't know how long to wait for some GPS to arrive to kill it. There'll be times when we just show up at a station system where there's a lot of players sitting there and just, play around with them at a distance and kill some small ships like interceptors that try and come tackle, and just prey on the weak and helpless, pretty much. I mean, when Atlas Alliance was moving out of drone regions, I was sitting in my Nano Dominics on undock point with about 20 of them in local, and none of my guys anywhere close, and I was just sitting there, not allowing them to undock. Basically, they were too scared to undock, and that's another type of griefing you can do with small gang warfare. Is you just come into the station system and you just get them to try and undock stuff for you. They would undock stuff. There are people who like to test their tanks, and sometimes they get surprised when their tank melts away before they can redock. There are times when they undock carriers even, which is a sign like go away kind of thing. That when they undock 2-3 carriers, it means get away, we don't want to fight you. But you still can try and get them aggressed and try and, if you have a Titan nearby, try and hot drop them as well. So roaming gangs often lead to capital fights, often lead to supers being tackled, for example, by roaming gang that was just roaming there. There could be other bonuses to small gang warfare and roaming as such that happens just from people, going out there and enjoying themselves. Right, I guess so ahead of time. I guess I'll just start taking questions, probably elaborate a bit more on them. Okay, so first question from Neville Smith, surprisingly. I'll read it out here. A bunch of unis will be going to Lowsec soon to make camp there for a while in Fountain Space, in PC space. What can they expect? What kind of roaming gangs would you recommend unis form, given that we have low skill level in general? Well, you currently already form, cruiser gang size, which is generally good enough, and when I was in Lowsec, we would generally make same sort of gangs to go to 0-0 to roam there. And cruiser size is definitely enough. I mean, you can have your good DPS in your min-mata ships, you can have your electronic warfare in Blackbirds, and sometimes you'd want to take something like Celestis or not Arbitrator. Yeah, arbitrators are good as well from drones, and tracking disruption is definitely good. You'd probably pack some electronic warfare heat, if you may, and that helps a lot when you're roaming. So yeah, cruiser size is definitely good enough, and I assume a lot of you already can fly cruisers. Hopefully. Let's see, and what you should expect in Fountain PC is Goon Swarm, Test Alliance, pretty much roaming about, and they would have large numbers, so there's going to be a lot of targets, obviously, and they would generally, if they see, they will definitely field out some kind of home defense fleet to face you, so definitely shouldn't fight them at close range, but pick them off at mid-range. Drone ships and small gang PvP work well in general. Yes, they do, because if you get jammed, they're still chewing up on your target, and one of my favorite roaming ships is Ishtar. A, because it's very heavily armored tank, has reasonable DPS, about 700 DPS on mine. It has 2 points. It has a disruptor, scrambler, and a web. It has a capacitor booster for when you're getting muted, and a micro warp drive. It packs a lot for a small size, basically, and it's good for tackling 2 targets at the same time. Plus, the other thing about drone ships like Dominic's, for example, is they can, in high slots, they can have, remote reps, which makes them, the best logistics ships for Lowsec roaming, where they can have like 3, for example, rappers, while having a large tank with 4 plates that could have up to, I think mine has, with Lowsec it gets up to 100 something thousand effective HP. So it's a rock that repairs other battleships, basically, and does DPS with Auger 5s. Who knew? Right, interceptors are the good in roaming fleets. Yes, they're definitely good. They're good because they can tackle stuff, and they're reasonably cheap as a throwaway ship while you're roaming. And if you have a Dictator, Dictator is as good. But Dictators normally get focused first because they're being Dictators, and Interceptors generally hard to hit and takes longer to lock as well, so they normally left alone for some time at least. While they steal a lot of DPS from your team, they're probably not going to be the main focus of the fleet. Cover Ops. It's good to have 1 cover ops in your fleet, but if you're roaming in battleships, what I was doing in roaming in Benal, my Scorpion would have a probe launcher, neutralizer, and cruise launchers in high slots. So when we actually have a target that logged off, but logged off in aggression, that we confirmed that it was aggression. For example, you came into the system and you see on scan, for example, a tank or something, and it was aggressed by something and still disappear. And that's where your probe launcher comes in handy. You scan them out, boom, land on top of them, kill them. Then they log in and go, what the hell happened? Especially in the current setting where you have, your timer, regression timer for when you shoot the target, Super Capital, for example, and regress it, keeping it from disappearing. So yeah, definitely good to have a prober. But generally speaking, roaming gangs generally don't have any covered ops. They would have bombers, but they wouldn't have a dedicated cover ops ship generally, because it just doesn't it's not in need. Often it's just there's no need for it. It's rarely that you find something that looked off. Very rarely. So generally, people tend to go for DPS cover ops, so bombers, rather than having some special dedicated ship. I mean, it's good to use that kind of ship in scouting. Yeah, you can use it to scout ahead. That's what it's good for. But of course, at the same time, you can scout in your, for example, interceptor. You can scout and tackle the target straight away, and interceptor will live longer than the cover ops as well. That's another thing I forgot to mention is your scout. Who should be your scout? Generally, when we roam, the scout is normally the FC, because he will be the first person making the decision of what to attack and what to engage. Unless you don't have like an FC and you're just roaming just to attack anything on the way, it doesn't really matter. But the first person to jump in normally is the person who will make the call. He can be flying anything really. Right, do you take logistics on your roams? How does it affect tactics if you do so? Generally, in 0-0 nowadays you tend to have a logistics person, 1 or 2. that does help. That keeps your tacklers alive, which is very good. So you can keep tackle for longer. For example, your dictors, unless they die from alpha damage, they're gonna be wrapped by a logistics ship and not die. So you could use them in later fights in other systems. It helps, keep your damage dealers as well, the close range damage dealers alive. And yeah, logistics is definitely good, but they're always going to be the primary focus, which is why when you're roaming in 0-0, it's best to keep them either out of enemy's range, because they have generally good range anyway, about 70 something kilometers up to that of their wrappers, and or keep them on the gate. So if they start getting focus, if you just engaged in a gate, get them to burn to the gate straight away. So if they get targeted, they can jump out and quickly burn back and jump again into the system. I mean, there's been a lot of times when I've been roaming with Pandemic Legion or roaming with my guys in a logistics ship, and I would have to always keep the distance up about 50 clicks at least from the engagement, so you're out of reach. They have the best thing about logistics nowadays, especially Scimitar for your shield gangs, is that it has such small signature radius that it's a bitch to hit it. It just really is, and if you keep it out of range, they can't even snipe it generally. What ships models will you recommend to start roaming? Models is a bit weird because there's not a strict setting of battle cruisers, and cruisers should be fit like, but generally they normally have reasonable tank, 1 point or a web and web to go with it, depending on the ship, and just the rest is DPS. What ship? Again, it depends on your skill level, depends on what you love to fly. It can be really anything. I mean, if you like to fly in Black Ops and you're not afraid to lose them, you can go in Black Ops roaming. I mean, we're trying to do that, but it didn't quite work out. I've been solo roaming in my Widow, but people were either afraid of me or just, didn't want to engage raid ships. I mean, it really depends. Really depends what kind of targets you're sort of expecting to go against, or what ships you just want to really fly. For example, you haven't flown and you just trained it. Hell, take it for roaming. For example, when I trained Crow, thing I did was I was like, yeah, let's go roaming. I want to try this out. So you just take whatever ship you want, and off you go. Leave Kaldar ships at home. That's not true. You can fly Caracals. Still, Caracals do good damage. More can be tankier ship. And if you blast defeated, then it does reasonable DPS as well. I mean, you shouldn't throw away Kaldar ships because they're not, ECM fit. It can be really. Caracals can have jammers sometimes. Even I've seen some ridiculous Caracal feats, but Caracal can be your long range DPS because it just has long range on those heavies. It can be very DPS with heavy assault ones as well. Again, it's just how you want your gang to be. If you want to go, full close range, chew it or die kind of style, you can, just get, fit your ships in full DPS, like maybe some little buffer, and just whatever you see, just go yum 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 yum, and implode in the process if if you can't do it fast enough. Is this blue really? Wow. Right. Next question was, what about a ship like Curse? It's mostly for solo runs. It's small gang PvP. It's Curse is the kind of ship like similar build. It's for people who are afraid to lose ships and just want to gank stuff without being in any way sort of being tackled and killed. I mean, Curse we get on Curse is you generally have 8 nanofeet, so you have your neutralizers, your drones, and some heavy launchers for DPS, and you generally have a faction disruptor, so you just orbit your target out of tackle range like 25, 27 kilometers while, neutralizing it completely and doing little but steady DPS. And of course, most tanks in 0-0, special raiders tanks are based, around hardness and shield boosters or armor reps, so that basically goes to null. And yeah, the DPS it has just enough to kill anything without the capacitor. So yeah, Curse is solo, but yeah, for people, I don't like the sort of people who fly Curses for solo, generally, because they're very afraid to lose. But for small gangs, it's definitely really good. One thing you have to be aware of that it's a very flaky ship, and even though you can fit it for tracking disruption and neutralizing, you definitely try and keep it away from engaging in large fights, because it's just going to get taken down first and very quickly. Even though it can keep sort of a range away from that, but yeah, you're better off taking something else with neutralizers, something cheaper. For example, I've seen people roaming Curses and they generally lose it if they're roaming like against, say, some alliances. 0-0. Electronic warfare frigates useful for roaming fleets. Yes, useful. Kitsunes and or the other ones are. Yeah, I know which ones are. I wouldn't say hyenas and what's that the other one? Keep forgetting the Galentian. Stupid playing one. I mean, we had it in Alliance Storm and I keep forgetting what it's called. Anyway, the damping and jamming ones are definitely useful. The target painter and another one, tracking disruptor one, aren't generally useful at all. Kitsune is definitely good, very fast to lock something, especially if you're facing another roaming gang and they have something like a Falcon, and you have a Kitsune, in case it doesn't get taken down fast, or if you have like a logistics to keep it alive as well, you can jam that other ECM ship really quickly before it can lock anything. So yeah, ECM frigates, definitely if you can have like 4 or 5 of them, it's definitely good because they can lock down quite a lot of people if they coordinate. Don't get this question. Krutoj, what roles you take as most important in roaming gangs besides tackler? What ships if you prefer? Why? I guess I know what that means. You have really 3 main types, I guess. So you'd have your tackle, your DPS, and your electronic warfare. Really, and scout can be any one of them. What ships you prefer? I prefer battleships. Long-range battleships because I have had the most fun in them, and flying my Scorpion I had a lot of fun in it, and I have survived countless of fights on Instructor, which makes it even more so sweet surviving. Taking on large forces is possible as well in them because they're quite tanky, and because they're long range they would normally fight at 100 kilometers optimal, so it's harder for large force to close in on them, land on top of them, and normally chew through things with long range guns that's trying to approach them, which makes it a fun turkey shoot sometimes. Another roaming, I guess, is just heavy assault ships with logistics. But that's just self-explanatory, really. you go around in this tanky DPS cruisers that with logistics make it really fun to play with, especially when people try to fight you. They generally do because Hex, pricey targets still, and throwing everything at you, from Tech 1 fitted Blackbeards. Oh wait, that was E-UNI.